welcome once again to Let's Talk Marriage. This is Pastor Larry coming to you this Wednesday afternoon with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. We're going to get right on into our session. I hope everyone is doing well. If you woke up this morning, you are doing well. All right. Let's get right on into it. Today's session is going to be about surviving a bad marriage or surviving a bad breakup. Now, when you walk down the aisle, when you first got married, you expected it to last forever. But things happen in people's lives, in our lives, that causes things to break up or cause the marriage to break up. I myself, we are in our 33 years, and we are doing wonderful. But we're doing wonderful because we work together. That's why we are doing wonderful. We're on the same page. Sometimes we have to agree to disagree, to avoid, confrontations and things of that nature. But there's some people that are in marriages that are abusive, and you're the ones I'm addressing today. They might be abusive, or they might be a bad breakup where, there's so many things that are going wrong. You can't see eye to eye. That's why I feel, I can talk to someone about going through that, because I myself, before I was married 33 years, I was married before. And I know the feeling of disassociating yourself with a bad marriage or coming out of a bad marriage. And what I'm talking about today is how to survive a bad breakup. So many people, after they walk down the aisle and things don't work out with their spouse, the first thing they do is go jump into another relationship. That's something you should not do. What you should do is allow yourself time to heal. And when you allow yourself time to heal, you can grow and you'll be ready to enter into another relationship. We've mentioned it before on the program. A lot of people jump into another relationship without closing the chapter in the marriage that they were in before, or the relationship that they were in before. And it doesn't necessarily have to be you coming out of a marriage. You could be coming out of a relationship with someone and, decide to marry someone, or you're a soulmate. And you bring that baggage over. We talked about that a lot too. You bring that baggage over from a previous relationship because you have not closed the chapter in that relationship. You have to allow yourself time to heal. And some of the things that you want to look for in when you're in a bad marriage, of course, you probably went through a lot of absence of loving behavior. That's one of the things that causes a marriage to break down. When your husband is not loving, or the spouse is not loving, or either one of you are not loving on each other, you're always downing each other, devaluating one another, with the name calling, bringing up things from the past, because a lot of times people bring up things from the past because they haven't closed the chapter from the past. So they constantly bring up things from the past. So you have to make sure that before you go into another relationship, again, I say this again and again and again, please work on yourself. Allow yourself time to heal, because sometimes especially if you come out of a marriage, you haven't healed. So you can't go into another serious relationship without bringing something from a previous relationship. That's where a lot of times you get someone in a marriage or a relationship that don't trust the person. They always looking for something. Usually there's something that stemmed from a previous relationship or a previous incident that they have not let go. You have to learn how to let things go. And if you can't let it go, that's when there's nothing wrong with getting therapy. In the black and brown community, we kind of frown on therapy. Oh, I don't need no therapy. I ain't crazy. It's not that you're crazy, but we all need that channel where we channel our energy through a third party. That way, it won't come out against your spouse, or or your husband or your wife. So you have to allow yourself time to heal. You can't jump in from one relationship to another. A lot of people do that because they don't want to be alone. Allow yourself time to be alone, because when you're alone, that allows yourself time to heal, to reevaluate your life, and to work on, because you're in a bad relationship, there could have been some things that you could have done yourself. And so you work on those things instead of bringing them over to another relationship. Because when you jump from one relationship to the other, what you're going to do, because you didn't close the chapter in the first relationship, you are going to assume that the new person is like the other person. You're all alike, You're going to have that attitude. And you don't want to take that over into another relationship. And you have to be careful when you're jumping into one relationship to another, especially if you have children. You don't want to get your children confused. Who is this? And the old saying, "This your uncle." How many uncles can they have? Come on. So you don't want to jump from one relationship to another. Here's another thing that causes marriage breakdowns: is chronic communication problems. If you guys cannot talk without getting into, everyone gets in a discussion, but I'm talking about like a heated argument where you're name calling and bringing up things that you didn't close out. And sometimes in relationships you have to close out incidents. Like if you forgive someone, you have to close that out. Don't keep bringing it up, because once you keep bringing it up, you can't move forward in the relationship. And I have to always, people probably always say, "Why you always talk about his wife like she perfect?" By all means, my wife is not perfect, but she is very close to it. She's awesome. So and that's because she's my soulmate. When you find your soulmate, you're not going to have all that unless you bring that baggage over in another relationship. Because you could be in a new relationship with your soulmate, and because you didn't close the chapter in the last relationship, you're going to just give him all kind of problems, or give her all kind of problems, because you're expecting them to react, or that person to react like the person in your previous relationship, because you did not close it out. And if you were in a bad relationship, you have to forgive that person. And that's the only way you can move on, is to forgive them and move on. And a lot of people have not forgiven that person that they had a bad relationship with in order to move on. Here's another one. Unaddressed and unhealed wounds from infidelity, trauma, or loss. If you were in a relationship where you forgave your spouse for infidelity, you have to let that go. If you made the decision to stay in that relationship, you have to let that go. You can't keep bringing that up every time something happens, or every time you go out of the house, you looking out the window, looking at your clock. Oh, you late. You can't do that. Because if you do that, you're setting your relationship. You're moving your relationship back instead of forward. And trauma, that's another thing in a relationship. If you suffered, or if you and your spouse have suffered through any kind of trauma, you have to work with them. You have to be patient. You both can go to therapy. You can go to therapy, or they might want to go by themselves, or you can go both as a couple. But trauma is another thing. If there's something traumatic that happened in a relationship, you have to work with them. You can't say, "Oh, you need to forget that," because people don't. You're not going to forget it, but you learn how to move forward. You're never going to forget it, but you learn how to move forward. Even when you forgive someone, sometimes in the back of your mind, you're not going to forget it, but you learn to move forward, and that's how the relationship will move forward. Here's another one: loss. If you suffered any kind of loss within the family, you have to be patient. and allow people time to grieve. Some people grieve in different ways, and if you constantly saying, "Oh, you need to forget about that and move on," people don't forget some things. You just don't forget. You learn how to live with it, but you don't forget it. And sometimes in a marriage or a relationship, one of the parties or both the parties might suffer some sort of loss. You have to allow people time to grieve. And you have a lot of people, even in the church arena, you have people saying, "You need to forget that. Put it in a sea of forgetfulness." We are not God. We don't have a sea of forgetfulness. God is the only one that does that. That's why He's infinite. That's why He's divine, because He has a sea of forgetfulness. We don't have that. It's still going to be with us. That's why you have to allow people time to grieve. And sometimes you even have people coming up praying for people, so I'm going to pray for you so you can forget about it. No, you can't. You pray for them that the Lord help them through their grieving process. And that's the only thing you can do when they're going through their grieving process, is to be there for them. If they want to cry, if they want to throw something, be there for them. Be on the receiving end or the listening end, where you there for them. You're going to stand with them. You're going to have their back, because people, some people take years to get over their grief, and some people never get over their grief. So you have to be patient with people that are going through grief. And sometimes we as Christians, we want to put a label on them and say they going through something, or they're depressed, or they oppressed. That's not the case. They're grieving. Allow people time to grieve. And while people are grieving, again, be there for them, love on them, and just be there for them. All right. Clear divide in family values and priorities. Sometimes in a bad marriage, you have a division and priorities. You going one way and the husband is going the other way. You have to be on the same page. That's why when you're married, you become one. And if you're constantly going in different directions, again, seek a family counselor, a marriage counselor, to find out why you're going in separate directions. Especially if you both still love each other. If you both still love each other, that is a plus to work on your marriage. If all the communication is broken down, the person is, and when I say abuse, it doesn't necessarily mean physical abuse. It could also mean mentally abusing a person as well, because you could very well mentally abuse a person as well as physically abusing a person. Any level of verbal, emotional, or physical abuse. We just talked about that. All right, and here's ways that you can preserve or your marriage. Detachment. Sometimes you have to separate yourself a little while, but while you separate yourself, if you make the decision to separate yourself for a little while, that doesn't mean give you the freedom to go see someone else and go calling your old boyfriends or your old flames. No, you don't do that. That's the time you take a little moment to heal. That's the healing process within the marriage. When you do the separation, you heal yourself before you come back together. Make sure you come back together with your spouse. Reach an agreement and come back together with your spouse. Focus on healing yourself. I've talked about that a couple times, or I mentioned it a couple times. Focus on healing yourself. A lot of times we jump from one relationship to another without healing. I've seen it so many times, especially with young people, because they have the thing is they don't want to be by themselves. And when you're by yourself, you get to reevaluate yourself. You get to find out what your faults are, or work on your faults. And so when you get into a relationship, or when you find that soulmate, because there's been so many people messed up with their soulmate because of things from their past. Make sure when you break off that relationship or end that relationship, make sure you allow yourself time to heal. Make sure you make sure you continue going to church. There's nothing wrong with talking to your pastor every once in a while. If you have a seasoned, let me say that again, a seasoned church mother. Because some people just say, I'm a mother of the church, everybody wants to be the mother of the church. Everybody wants to be a minister, So make sure you seek someone, a seasoned mother that's been there, done that. And, if you need to talk with somebody while you in your healing process, or you can seek professional counseling while you're in your healing process. That way, learn how to close these. I can't say it much. Learn how to close chapters in old relationships, because so many times we leave all these books open. When you have a lot of books open, you can't focus on the book that's in front of you. If you have a whole bunch of, that's the same thing when you're doing homework. If you're doing homework and you have all these books open, you can't focus on the book that's set in front of you because you're too busy glancing back at the open book that's sitting on the side of you, or on the left side or the right side of you. Too busy glancing on both sides to focus on what's in that book, because you have to work on the book that you're in, or the relationship that you're in. That way you'll have a successful marriage. And those are things to have a successful marriage. And again, if you need to seek counseling or to talk with someone, I'm always available. I don't know if my number is there, but my number is out there. If you need to call, that's 708-609-1107. That's Pastor Larry. If you need to call for any kind of counseling, or if you have any questions, you can call me on that number, because we don't really do live right now. Well, not right now, but I plan on in the future maybe doing some live shows. But this is Pastor Larry. Make sure you work on yourself. I'm going to be signing off until we meet again. Now, any of the music that you hear on here is from a wonderful app called Whoop Triggers Plus. Is on the Android and the Apple applications. This is Pastor Larry. Until we meet again, saying God bless you, and till we meet again on Let's Talk Marriage.